Hey there everybody, welcome back to the LAPES Night Talk Show. That is the late AP Environmental Science Night Talk Show. I'm your lovely and semi-uneducated host, and you guys are in for a real treat tonight. But before we get to our special guest, let's discuss some news. It has recently been brought to my attention that the asbestos disaster in Wittenoom, Australia's effects will not be fully known until the year 2020. Now, this disaster might only be remembered by our older audience, but in summary, there was a poorly regulated asbestos mine which led to asbestos exposure, causing death and illness among many of the citizens and workers there. It just goes to show you, when you're dealing with asbestos, it's not as best as it gets. Speaking of dangerous disasters, what's the deal with Yucca Mountains? Ever since the government backed out of funding, no private corporation has taken up the project. Most Nevadans think this is a good thing because they don't even have any nuclear power plants there, but they would be expected to store all the nuclear waste. There's also the fact that the Shoshone people find the grounds to be very sacred, and as we learned in Mossville, environmental racism isn't real. Nuclear waste is very dangerous, and exposure to the radiation from this waste can even kill. If something went wrong at the Yucca Mountain site, this would result in loss of biodiversity and habitats. When assessing the risks, it's enough to make anyone say, yucca. But let's move on to some more uplifting news. The second green revolution is still in full swing. As of recently, universities in India are starting to implement strategies to help support this cause. The goal is to grow food on less land by growing dwarf crops like rice and wheat and help solve malnutrition crises like iron, vitamin A, and iodine deficiencies. This also protects biodiversity by not having to destroy existing ecosystems for crop production. Critics said watching cartoons wasn't going to help anything, but all the kids in the 90s are now grown up and they had watched Captain Planet and are old enough to implement those strategies they learned. So wasting fossil fuels to watch cartoons proved beneficial in teaching sustainable agriculture. It's just another trade-off. Most recently, there was an earthquake near the South Sandwich Islands off the coast of southern South America. The earthquake was a 7.2 and was at the supposed convergent plate boundary of South America and the Scotia Sea. This area is allegedly seismically active, that is, if you believe in the theory of tectonic plates. Fortunately, due to the intermediate depth and remote location of the earthquake, there was no significant damages to the islands or residents. Well, that's about all we have time for with the news. Coming up, we have two highly dangerous and controversial guests. Due to the high risk factor of their appearance, we are not allowed to have them in studio, so the interviews were pre-recorded on separate occasions. They asked we keep their identities hidden and voices changed. This is for the safety of them and for our audience. We will see their interviews right after a quick message from our sponsors.
When you're driving through the Midwestern United States, just outside of the Ogallala Aquifer, you might think to yourself, wow, that's a lot of corn. And it is. We need a lot of it. Corn is one of the most important crops to the United States and possibly even worldwide. Ingredients such as cornstarch, gluten, sucrose, cellulose, and everyone's favorite, high fructose corn syrup, all come from corn. And these ingredients make such great products from goldfish to toothpaste and yes, even to everybody's favorite beverage, Grape-Aid. So next time you're driving and think there's a lot of corn, just remember to think that same thing when you're walking down the aisles at the store. Corn. It's in everything.
This cold-hearted parasite comes to us from the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, but has somehow found its way into the Great Lakes. Tonight you will see my frightening experience of meeting one of the Great Lakes' most evil organisms, the vampire of the deep, the sea lamprey.
This may be for your show, but you're interviewing me, so my rules. I see you invade more than just habitats, but people's career too. That's not funny. Anyways, to the questions. Why don't you tell me about how you settled to the Great Lakes? I was swimming around over my natural habitat, got bored one day, decided to swim to see some new sights, went through a series of streams and canals and whatnot, then I hit Lake Ontario, then Erie, then just spread from there to the other lakes, and even wound up in Lake St. Clair. So you weren't accidentally introduced, you came here on your own. Pretty much. Didn't have anything else better to do. Thought I might as well destroy some ecosystems elsewhere. You're given the nickname Vampire of the Deep. Do you mind explaining why that is? I guess not, now that you already gave away my identity. I'm a parasite. Look at my mouth. got all these sharp teeth. Like a leech, I attach myself to species and suck all of their nutrients and food from them till they die. Then I move on and find another one. Life goes on for me, not them. So you have a symbiotic relationship. It's just parasitism. What do you think I mean when I say parasite? I gain from the relationship, they lose. Reporters ask the dumbest questions. So how has your invasion of the Great Lakes been? Very successful, thanks for asking. I can easily adapt to different temperatures, habitats, and prey, so it's pretty easy for me to thrive there. Plus, I don't have any predators in the Great Lakes, so the only thing trying to kill me are people. But the people aren't very good at killing. So the only thing I really have to fear is killing all the fish in the Great Lakes and running out of my own food supply. But if that happens, I'll just move to a new habitat and kill everything there. Go from one place to the next until I kill everything in the world.
As you just saw, the sea lamprey is a cruel and vicious parasite that kills everything it can get its mouth on. It doesn't care that the whole Great Lakes ecosystem might be destroyed by its presence. The most successful strategies for ridding your home of the sea lamprey are electric currents in the water, poisoning wells, and just killing them when you catch them on fish. We have one last guest to present to you tonight, our musical act for the evening, heavy metal trio, Deadly Waters. They're playing a song off their new album, Contaminating the Abyss, called Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution, but Heavy Metals Are. Here they are, composed of lead on guitar and vocals, arsenic on bass, and mercury on drums. The one, the only, Deadly Waters.
Hey there, you environmentalists! Don't throw away chemicals. And while you're down there in the mine shaft, be careful not to become exposed. This rock and roll ain't no riddle, man. But heavy metals can kill. Oh, they can kill. Heavy metals are found naturally in the earth, but are dangerous to inhale or to hold. They're just waiting in the rock, but end up in our waste. Makes you sick and won't let you grow old. Look ahead to the future, take notes on the past. They'll always be with us, but get them out the air, out there. Rock and roll ain't noise pollution. Heavy metals make you ill. Rock and roll ain't noise pollution. Heavy metals can kill. Yes, they will. Take a look inside your hardwood floors. They could be treated with arsenic or lead. Exposure to car emissions and some fertilizers can cause brain damage or even make you dead. Look ahead to the future. Take notes on the past. They'll always be with us. But get them out of the water. Out of the water. Rock and roll ain't no pollution. Heavy metals make you ill. Rock and roll ain't noise pollution. Heavy metals, they can kill. Yes, they will.
the time we have for tonight's show. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next week's episode with our special guest, the greatest teacher and environmentalist, Mr. McNamara. That's all, folks. Remember to take care of the environment because it is very interdisciplinary.